So, we're about to dive into a pretty chilling first-hand account. It's the story of someone who tried to peek behind the curtain of our reality and found something truly terrifying in a world that was always meant to stay hidden.
These were the exact words a father spoke to his son. It's a heavy warning, right? And it really just hangs over this entire story, a warning that, as we'll see, was tragically ignored.
All right, so to really get what's going on here, you first have to understand the core belief at the heart of this whole thing, that there's a parallel world, living right alongside our own, but totally separate.
Now, according to the source material for this story, there's a veil, a hijab, that was put there on purpose, right between our world and the world of these beings called the jinn. And it's there for a very good reason, to keep us safe, to maintain that separation from things we just aren't meant to see.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? People try to cross this veil for different reasons. Some do it out of pure malice, they want to use these unseen forces to hurt people. But others, like the young man in our story, well, they're just driven by plain old curiosity. But here's the kicker. It doesn't matter why you do it. Both paths lead to the same dangerous place.
Okay, so let's get into the story itself and meet the main character. We're going to call him Ali. His fascination with this hidden world wasn't something that just popped up out of nowhere. It was something that grew and festered from the time he was a little kid.
You see, Ali literally grew up surrounded by all this stuff. He was always hearing stories about jinn and spirits. To top it all off, his own uncle claimed he was an exorcist. Ali would actually sneak around and watch his uncle do these rituals, and he became completely captivated, just obsessed with the idea of making contact himself.
And get this. He was just 13 years old when his dad gave him that super serious warning we talked about. But when you're 13 and you feel like this huge mystery is right there for the taking, a father's warning, well, it just can't compete. He decided to ignore it.
So, Ali goes off on his own little forbidden quest. He starts reading everything he can get his hands on. Books, old internet forums, you name it. He just digs deeper and deeper until he finds a very specific method to contact a very specific entity, his own personal jinn companion, something called a Kareem.
And here's a really eerie detail you need to remember. Years before any of this happened, Ali had this incredibly unsettling dream. He dreamt he saw an identical twin of himself, but this twin was just sinister. It looked at him with this strange, arrogant, evil glare that shook him to his core. He woke up really disturbed, but, eventually he just brushed it off. Just a bad dream, right?
So years go by, right? But that dream and this whole obsession, it never really left him. His curiosity just kept building until it hit a breaking point. As a teenager, Ali finally decided, okay, I'm doing it. He was ready to perform the ritual he'd read about.
The ritual he found was super specific. 3 steps. Step 1, sit in a room with very low light. Step 2, write these very specific words and symbols on a mirror, but backwards. And step 3, just stare. Stare deep into your own reflection and do not look away. So, as he starts this thing, you can just imagine what's going through his head. He's absolutely terrified, of course, but mixed in with that fear is this exhilarating thrill, that rush a teenager gets from doing something they know is completely forbidden.
So he's just staring. 1 minute goes by, then 2, 5 minutes, and nothing. Absolutely nothing. His excitement just curdles into anger. He thinks, this is all just a bunch of nonsense I read online. And right at that moment, when he's about to just call it quits, glaring at his own reflection with frustration, that's when it happened. In the mirror, his face, it started to change, to twist into something that wasn't him anymore.
I mean, can you imagine? Pure terror washes over him. He wants to scream, he wants to run, he wants to just look away, but he can't move. He's totally paralyzed, just frozen, forced to watch this nightmare unfold in the glass right in front of him.
And the face in the mirror, it was the same one, the twin from his dream. And then it spoke. From his own reflection, a voice whispered to him, "Don't you want to see my real face?" At that moment, his brain just couldn't take it. The shock, the pure undiluted fear was too much, and he just blacked out, collapsing right there on the floor.
So when he finally comes to, he looks at the mirror and it's just normal. His own face is staring back at him, and this incredible wave of relief just washes over him. He thanks God, promises he will never, ever be that stupid again. He thought it was over, but it was just the beginning. He tries to just
get back to normal life. But later that day, he's in the bathroom, just shaving, and he sees his reflection. And he watches in complete horror as his face starts to change all over again. And that's when the terrible realization hit him. The entity wasn't gone. It had never left.
And this time, the voice makes a promise, a chilling, demonic promise. It whispers from the glass, "I will not leave you until you go mad or die." With one single act of curiosity, he had opened a door, invited something in, and now that door could never be closed.
From that day forward, his life was just a living hell. I mean, he tried everything. He went to religious scholars. He even went to psychiatrists. Nothing worked. Every single time he saw a reflection, the vision was there. The only advice anyone could give him was to simply never look in a mirror again. So now he lives in constant terror, running away from any reflective surface, just drowning in this deep, endless regret for one decision he made as a curious kid.
This entire account really just boils down to one very unsettling question for all of us. When you're standing at the edge of the unknown, what price is too high to pay for just a single look? What happens when your journey home, the one thing you're desperate for, becomes a descent into a nightmare you can't wake up from? Today we're diving into a really harrowing first-person account of survival, desperation, and a terrifying supernatural trap. This is the story of a young man named Saleh.
We're actually going to start where this story ends, with this single, chilling sentence from Saleh himself. It's a statement that just hangs over everything we're about to talk about, a promise of a horror that has no real ending. So the question is, what could possibly lead a person to say something like that?
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off with Saleh, a young Saudi man who's working in Yemen. And then, bam, war breaks out. His entire world gets turned upside down. He's trapped. And to make things worse, he's lost all of his personal papers, his ID, everything. He has no way to prove who he is and absolutely no safe way to get home. So after weeks of being stuck, Saleh makes a really desperate choice. He decides he's just gonna walk. His only option is the old Al-Wadea Road, which is the only path that connects Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Now, to avoid bandits and militias, he has to do this at night, all alone, on a road that has a pretty dark reputation.
So there's Saleh walking through the pitch-black night when suddenly a little glimmer of hope appears in the form of headlights. It's a big cargo truck. It pulls over and the driver agrees to give him a ride, but, only part of the way. And as they're driving, the conversation turns to some really unsettling stories about the very road they're on.
Yeah, the driver isn't just making small talk here. He's painting this picture of local dread. He talks about jinn, supernatural spirits in Arabian folklore that are said to haunt this very path. He tells Saleh about these phantom car accidents, cars that just mysteriously crash or burst into flames. Then he points to a village nearby, completely deserted for decades, a place so feared that nobody dares to set foot in it. Every warning is another piece of a puzzle that Saleh is about to find himself trapped inside.
And then comes the driver's final and most critical piece of advice. He looks Saleh dead in the eye and tells him, "Whatever you do, do not fall asleep out here." It's this super cryptic, ominous warning that just kind of hangs in the air as the truck's taillights disappear, leaving Saleh completely and totally alone in the dark. As Saleh keeps walking, he gets that unshakable feeling. You know the one, the little prickling on the back of your neck when you feel like you're being watched? He turns, and what he sees just defies all logic. There's a dog standing unnaturally still in the shadows, but it's on its hind legs, like a person. It doesn't bark, it doesn't move, it just watches him. Okay, so completely shaken, Saleh runs for hours until he finally sees the lights of the border checkpoint. He stumbles towards the soldiers and pretty much collapses from sheer exhaustion. But when he explains his situation, the answer is just devastating. No ID, no entry. They can't let him cross. He's turned away, with his goal right there in front of him, but totally out of reach.
With no other choice, Saleh heads for the mountains, trying to find a way around the border. And this is where his journey goes from bad to just complete chaos. In the dark, he wanders right into a live minefield. He somehow, miraculously, avoids 3 of them, but his foot lands squarely on a 4th. He drops his bag, runs, and the whole world just erupts behind him. The blast throws him forward, into a deep, unseen pit.
He lands hard. So hard the impact knocks the wind and his voice right out of him. He's injured, he's trapped, and he can't even call for help. But he pretty quickly realizes
he's not alone down there. From the darkness of the pit, he starts to hear this low groaning. And as the hours pass, that groaning slowly builds into these horrifying, piercing screams.
After what feels like forever, Saleh hears footsteps up above. A figure appears at the edge of the pit. It's an old man with a long white beard. And for the first time in days, Saleh feels this incredible surge of hope. He's been found. He's going to be rescued.
But the man doesn't offer a rope. He doesn't say a single word. He just throws something down into the pit with Saleh. It's the carcass of a dead, rotting dog. And then he just walks away, disappearing into the night. That feeling of hope, it instantly turns to just confusion and total despair.
He's trapped for another day, and the starvation becomes an agony. Saleh is faced with an unthinkable choice. He eats the meat from the dead dog, and immediately his stomach just erupts in the most excruciating pain. He feels something writhing, moving inside of him. And then everything goes black. He passes out.
This is where the nightmare logic of Saleh's new reality really kicks in. He wakes up and he's in the old man's home. It seems like he was rescued. So he escapes, only to find himself in that haunted village the truck driver warned him about. He flees that village and finds another one, but it's the exact same place. Trapped and terrified, he faints and wakes up right back in the old man's house. He's caught in this impossible, terrifying loop.
He passes out from the pain and wakes up again. But this time, it's not the old man. It's his friend from Yemen, Ali, shaking him awake. Ali says he got worried and came looking for him. A familiar face, a story that makes sense. For the first time, it feels real. This has to be it, right? The nightmare must finally be over.
But it's not over, not even close. After a whole other series of false escapes and fake rescues that all lead right back to square one, Saleh finds himself inevitably back in that old man's house. The game is up, the illusions drop, and the old man is finally ready to explain the horrifying rules of the trap Saleh has stumbled into.
The first truth is simple, and it's devastating. The kind old man who supposedly rescued him? He wasn't some hermit, he was a sorcerer.
The sorcerer then explains the actual mechanism of his trap. He tells Saleh about something called the Kurban, which is a ritual sacrifice, an offering made to empower demonic entities and bind them to the sorcerer's will. You see where this is going? That dog in the pit wasn't just some dead animal. It was a kurban, a vessel for a dark ritual. So in his desperation to survive, Saleh didn't just eat forbidden meat. He consumed a cursed object, and in doing so, he internalized the sorcerer's dark magic.
And the consequence is absolute. With the curse now physically inside of him, the sorcerer and the jinn he serves have a direct hook into Saleh's very being. They can manipulate his reality, folding time and space around him, which explains why every single escape attempt only ever led him right back to his prison. And then comes the final, soul-crushing ultimatum. The sorcerer offers Saleh a deal to end the torment, but the price is his humanity. He has to serve them, bring them ritual sacrifices for 10 long years. And the alternative? Suffer this reality-bending horror for the rest of his life.
So he's faced with this impossible choice: damnation through service or damnation through eternal torture. And Saleh makes his decision. He refuses. He will not betray his faith. He will not become a monster just to escape a nightmare.
The sorcerer is furious. He screams at Saleh and literally throws him out of the house. But this isn't freedom. This is the beginning of the real curse. Saleh is no longer trapped in the house, but the sorcerer promises to make him cry blood for his defiance. He is now a prisoner of his own perception, forever haunted, forever running.
And this brings us right back to where we started. To this day, I run, and my eyes do not close. Saleh escaped the sorcerer's house, but he never, ever escaped the curse. His story leaves us with this really chilling question. In a situation where the price of survival is your own soul, is there any real...
Okay, so let's dive into a true story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood horror movie. This is the absolutely chilling story of one woman's fight against something that was determined to protect its home, no matter what.
I mean, we all know how it goes in the movies, right? The creaking doors, the strange noises, the shadowy figures. But sometimes the most terrifying stories aren't the ones on screen. They come from real life. And that is exactly where this deeply unsettling tale begins. So, the main character in this story, it's not actually a person. It's a place. A particular house in California that was so much more than just a building. It was basically a time capsule, a perfectly preserved legacy of its one and only owner.
Now, to really get what's going on here, you have to understand Mrs. Meg Lyons. This woman didn't just live in her house. In a way, she was the house. Every single piece of furniture, every little design choice, that was all her. She lived a pretty quiet, solitary life, and she eventually passed away right there, alone. It's like her very essence got baked into the walls as the house just sat there, completely untouched for years.
Then, fast forward to November of 1981. A new owner enters the picture, a woman named Mrs. Frances Freeborn. And right away, we have a major conflict. You've got this perfectly preserved home on one side, basically a memorial, and on the other, you have Mrs. Freeborn, who wants to do a complete renovation, a total overhaul. A finished story is about to clash with a brand new beginning. And this, my friends, is where our haunting really kicks off.
The second Mrs. Freeborn started making her plans, the house, well, let's just say the house began to push back. It was not a fan of the new vision. Not at all.
You know, at first it was subtle stuff. Weird noises that she just brushed off as old pipes. She'd come downstairs in the morning, and windows or doors she swore she'd locked were just wide open. Lights she knew for a fact she'd turned off would be blazing. And she did what most of us would do, right? She tried to rationalize it all. Oh, I must have just forgotten. But the house, it was just getting warmed up.
And this is the turning point. The one event that was so bizarre, so incredibly specific, that Mrs. Freeborn could no longer deny that she was dealing with something else entirely.
And what was it that sent the message? A painting. Yep, just a seemingly ordinary painting of three women from the pre-Civil War era. But this simple object became the chosen tool for whatever was lurking in that house to make its intentions crystal clear. So check this out, it's just wild. Mrs. Freeborn hangs the painting up. The next day, it's not smashed on the floor. It's placed carefully, propped up against the wall. Okay, weird. She hangs it again. Same thing happens the next day. This goes on for 5 straight days. Finally, she gets this powerful feeling, a push, as she called it, to hang it somewhere completely different. She gives in, moves it to the new spot, and it stays put. And here's the part that will give you goosebumps. A little while later, a visitor casually mentioned that Mrs. Lyons, the original owner, used to hang a very similar painting in, you guessed it, that exact same spot. This wasn't random. It was direct communication. The presence wasn't just haunting the house, it was redecorating.
Okay, so messing with the decor was one thing, but in 1982, when Mrs. Freeborn decided to renovate the master bedroom, Mrs. Lyons' own personal sanctuary, the playful, creepy haunting turned into something absolutely terrifying. Everything comes to a head at a very specific, very classic time. 2 o'clock in the morning, of course. Just try to imagine this. It's 2 a.m., the bathroom window just opens by itself. She gets up, closes it, gets back in bed. Moments later, it flies open again, but this time, the bedroom window opens with it. Then, a cabinet door starts violently slamming open and shut, bang, 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 and all the while, her dog is going absolutely ballistic, just barking in sheer terror. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a full-on assault.
So she does what anyone would do. She runs. But as she gets out of the bedroom, something physically stops her. She feels a sharp, invisible slap right across her face. And then, this feeling of a solid presence, a physical wall of nothing, blocking her escape down the hall.
And in a moment of just pure, desperate terror, she screams into the empty hallway. She's literally yelling at an invisible force that is physically trapping her inside her own home.
After that, after a physical confrontation, there was just no going back. A line had been crossed. This was no longer her house.
The last few moments were just total chaos. She grabs her dog, bolts out the back door into the pitch-black night, jumps in her car, still in her nightgown, mind you, and just drives. She just fled into the night, getting as far away as she could from the house she tried to make her own.
And that was it. She decided right then and there she would never, ever go back to that house. The battle was over. The house had won. So that leaves us with this one big question, right? What exactly was defending that house so violently? Was it the lonely spirit of Meg Lyons just desperately trying to hold on to the only world she ever knew? Or was it something darker, something attached to the property itself that would fight back against any change from anyone forever? The answer, I guess, will always be a mystery.